All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's segment, you'll hear Dennis and I discuss a question we saw on ZDoggMD's Instagram that he got from a viewer, which is how old is too old? Remember, if you like the content, please like, comment, and subscribe as it helps the channel grow.
Kind of still
I'll-
Z. The first one's Z Dog related. I found it on his
Mm.
Instagram, I think. But
Right.
So we'll go into that one next. But it was in searching or looking up stuff for Z Dog. Obviously, I haven't watched every piece of content he's ever created, but I was like, let me just scroll through some stuff and see what he's got. But
Mhm.
one of them was I don't know if it was like a Q&A or something, but it was a viewer question, and I think it was one of his viewers wanted to know if it was too late for them to go to medical school at the time. I think the person said they were 25 when they asked the question, and I don't remember his word for word response. You can imagine, if you know him, you can imagine what his response was.
Mhm.
But I got to thinking about that specific question, and I can answer the med school part, but then you can also we could just apply it to general life.
Mhm.
So when they asked it, I'm like, man, you're only 25. I started medical school at 22, so it's not like you're way behind. First of all, also when I did medical school, I mentioned off camera, but we had like full fledged lawyers. So they'd already gone to law school and been practicing for X amount of years. We had engineers. So we had, I think, the oldest med student I was with somewhere in their 50s, I think late 40s, early 50s. So I'm like, it's technically the answer is no, it's never too late to go. You have to understand what you're getting yourself into. But go ahead.
I said I was gonna say I think with him I thought Zubin I think he said like yeah it's too late like it's always just too late
Yeah.
like it's not obviously he was joking like it's never too late if you want to do something like go do it like it's not it's
Yeah.
you put that in your own mind that oh I'm too old I'm too slow I can't do it I don't know how to learn anymore I don't know how to like if you want to do something just go do it and don't worry about what anybody else thinks if you're in there like Gage said he's 20 Gage is 22 years old starting medical school and he still has
Mhm.
residency fellowship all the other things to get through and he's sitting beside a person who's 50 years old who maybe is going to be done by the time they're what 60 or so 60
Mhm.
something and they start their career at 60 where a lot of people may be retiring or whatever but if that's what you want then who cares?
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's what the what's his name? Gary Vee is a big proponent on that.
Mhm.
Of it's any age you can do whatever you want. He's like, when people come up to me and they're like 50 years old, they're like, oh, it's too late. I missed the boat. And he's like, oh, you didn't. It's not too late. I always think of the Joe Rogan quote. He's like, the person's like, I wish I would have started sooner. He's like, well, you fucking didn't. So just start now. So
Yep.
like that's kind of the attitude you have to have is and that's one of the things I think that took me forever to start this. I'm like, man, we missed the boat on podcasting, and because this has been around for 10 years, however long this has been
Yeah.
around. But I was like, you'll never know unless you actually try. So his Z Dog's advice essentially was, yeah, just you can do whatever you want whenever you want. Don't
Mhm.
let you're putting these limitations on yourself. But when he asked that specific question, I commented on the video. I said, it's always too late. I said, never go to medical school. Don't ever do it. Which I think he said jokingly, but there's a little bit of truth in every joke. I think he meant it. Like, don't go to medical school. He just, wasn't as adamant as I am. I would never recommend anyone ever go, no matter what age you are.
Mhm.
But
What's what Shakespeare said, like the best truth is a half lie. And
yeah,
so yeah, I mean it's difficult, it's tough, but I mean if it's something that you really want to do, like Gage did with his life, go
thought I
for
wanted
that.
to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's very generic advice, right? But truly, it is. I don't. When people ask these kind of questions, I honestly I don't know what they want the response to be. They know what the answer is.
Mhm.
That person asked that question. They knew it wasn't too late to go to medical school. They're only 25. Even if you put, it took me 14 years to do
Yeah.
radiology. So let's assume they do, even if they do primary care, they're going to do it'll be a shorter amount of time for them. Like, the answer that still puts you at 40. You know the answer to the question you're asking. You just
Yeah.
want somebody else to kind of say it out loud.
Mhm.
So
People want reassurance from other people. And
yeah.
and And I think when people say, "Oh, it's too late," yep, just stop. And they're like, "Okay, that's what I was looking for,"
Yeah.
you know, or if
Yeah.
they say, "No, it's not too late at all," and you're like, "Oh, well, I need to find somebody else who's going to tell me who's going to
Yeah.
like
Exactly. Yeah.
justify me saying like it's too late," and they agree with
Yeah.
me, and so that's the reason why I didn't do it. And so,
Yeah. You'll find the answer you want
exactly,
eventually from somebody. It's just like you see a whole bunch of it's big now. People always want research, right? To back up an opinion, like vaccines cause autism, yada yada yada. You're gonna find research to support your opinion no matter what side you're on.
right?
So you're just gonna keep bouncing from resource to resource or person to person until you get the answer that you want.
Mhm.
So just you have to look, just know when you ask these kind of questions, I mean, you already know the answer.
Yep.
You just
And
want
like
someone else to validate it.
right, and like that terrible doctor that did tried to correlate those two vaccines that
Hmm.
cause autism
Hmm.
BS.
Yeah.
Like he found little things that just
Yep.
it's just BS. It's all garbage. But you can search BS and you will find it. Like you will
Hmm.
find lies if you search it out. And so yeah, do what you want. In this instance, do what you want to do with your life, um, and don't worry about somebody telling you yes you're too old or yes you're this or
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, you have to learn to block that stuff out. We've talked a little bit about it when I was, I grew up in a small town. Nobody really amounted to much of anything. So when I told people that I wanted to go to medical school, you could see the look on their face. They're saying one thing like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you do great." But you can see they don't mean it. They're like, "Oh, you're not going to make it." Like
Mhm.
I even
Yeah.
had a one of my high school friends. He married uh, someone else we went to high school with. They've been together forever. She admitted to me that she's like, "Yeah, I didn't think you could do it," and I was like, "I know. Like these people, yeah, these people say one thing, but I know they mean another thing. I can
Yeah.
see it in your face, in your body language. You don't think I can do what I just told you I'm going to
Mhm.
do." So you're going to have people that doubt you every step of the way, every step of the way. You
Right.
know, we've mentioned our upbringing before. My parents didn't go to college; they barely graduated high school, and
Mhm.
everyone's like, they look at that and they're like, "Oh, yeah, that's why you won't make it." Your
Mhm.
parents did this; you can't amount to anything. And
Right.
I'm like, if you stay in these settings long enough, you're going to believe it.
Right.
I
Yep.
didn't stay in that set. I left my town for college, and I never went back.
Mhm.
So once you get around, I think, kind of on a tangent, but you have to get people around you that, well, I don't. They think like you, right? They have to think like you, but they
Mhm.
also, I mean, they have to be able to check you.
Mhm.
You don't want yes men all
Yeah.
around you just saying whatever. But you
Right.
have to have people that are going to support you along the way. I eventually met those people that were like, "Oh yeah, you can do this," and I could tell that they meant it. And then
Mhm.
once you get, that those kind of people around you, you get some confidence. Things get so much easier.
Mhm. Get people who believe in you, who are on the
Yeah.
same, who want to do the same paths or trying to
Hmm.
better themselves, and they see
Yeah.
what you went through, and you just keep raising each other up. Like you find your crowd when you start like
Yeah.
getting out of
Sometimes you're not even looking for it.
Yep.
As residents, we spend a lot of time together. And I went to a small program. There's only like 15 of us, I think, at a time, but
Mhm.
12 in radiology. And then, I mean, you spend 50, 60 hours a week with these people. So
Mhm.
obviously you don't like all of them, but some of them end up being really good friends that you would have never guessed. I still talk to so many of the people that I was residents with that
Mhm.
I'm like, never would have get in my life. I never would have said you and I are going to be as good of friends as we are.
Right. That's that,
So
that's cool.
you're not always looking for it, but you'll
Mhm.
find it when they show up. That's
Right.
we're kind of getting into some like mushy garbage
Yeah.
here, but I feel like somebody needs, because you always hear it from people that are already established, right? Like Joe Rogan could tell you what we just told you, and people are like, "Oh yeah, fucking easy for you to say, Joe. You're a billionaire."
Mhm.
But when you hear it from people like us that we're accomplished, but we're not nearly as successful as they are, or you're like, okay, now it maybe sticks a little bit, resonates a little bit more because these people are on my level. At
Mhm.
least that's how I felt. Like
Right. Yeah.
I don't want Ray Lewis telling me, "Hey man, you can do whatever you want." Easy
More
for you
fun.
to say, brother. You're, a
Yeah.
freak athlete but I'm not saying he didn't work hard, but I think the message just resonates with people. Just like we mentioned it again, the Oliver Anthony, right? He's just an average dude, just like the rest of us. He was in the woods when he recorded that. So
Mhm.
I think when people see you as like an equal, or like they can see themselves in you, the message is a little bit more powerful.
And I think that gives them the step. They're like, okay, that average guy
Mhm.
did it. Like I can do it.
Mhm.
Not just LeBron, who's the freak athlete.
Yeah.
The average guy over there. If he can do it, I know I can do it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
but
mean,
yeah,
I was the same way. I've met people along the way, doctors along the way that came from families of doctors. I'm like, man, your experience is not for me.
mhm,
It doesn't relate to me. But then I meet one of my favorite family medicine attendings was a dude that grew up in like rural Missouri,
mhm,
and he had the kind of a similar upbringing to what I had. I'm like, oh, okay, now you're telling me this stuff, you can do it, then I can do it. So it's
yeah,
not to discredit the work that those other people have done. I think it's just they're already there. So it's hard to see. We didn't see the process of getting there. I'm telling you the process. You can see
yeah.
my process of getting there. So it's a little bit more
And,
relatable.
and I think that even goes back to you're jumping aside, like you know, race, age, ethnicity, all those things. Like you see somebody who is the same 50-year-old that you are doing it
Hmm.
or doing the process of doing something. You're like, oh, okay, like they're fit. Like, or you see somebody even older, you're like,
Yeah.
you're 50 and you're like, I can't do it. And you see the 60-year-old that's doing it and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I can do it. Or you see somebody who's the same race or ethnicity or has that background that you do doing something. And you're like,
Hmm.
okay, like, yeah, it's obtainable. And
Yeah.
so I think that helps a lot of people internally make
I
that
think
decision. Like,
the
yeah.
going back to that viewer's question, I'm
Mhm,
assuming they're having the issue that most people do, which is the first step, right? They were scared of the first initial step,
mhm,
which it never even crossed my mind. Going to medical school, like the risks never even crossed my mind. But it's easily the riskiest thing I've ever done in my life. Because now
mhm,
if I didn't finish, which we had several people that didn't finish, I'm hosed. I'm in debt. I'm not going to I'd be stuck probably an average job paying back that debt for the rest of my life, depending
mhm.
on when I quit. So I think I don't know if you did, but I definitely struggled with the first step in terms of making this podcast. And then that video that I did last night, I was like, man, I don't want to put myself on camera and edit and do all this other stuff. But
Uh-huh,
I think
yeah.
most people are just scared to take the first step, and you kind of just have to do it.
The first step is always the hardest because that's like your leap of faith. Like
Hmm.
that's your like, okay, I'm stepping out of what's comfortable into something that's uncomfortable, and I don't know what's going to happen. Am I wasting my time?
Yep.
Am I like whatever it is? So if you're able to take that, and I think sometimes that even like going to school, I look back sometimes and like even the education that I went through, I'm like, if I was my age now, like I think I know so much more than I know then. I'm like, would I have done that again? Like probably like I don't know if I would have done it all again. Like
Yeah.
sometimes like the sleepless nights and the different things that you just were just like head down, just like doing it. Looking back, like I'd have been like, nah, I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. Like, never mind. Like, but I
Yeah.
think I was too young and too dumb to know better.
Yep. Ignorance is bliss. You don't
Like,
know any better. You
and
don't know any better.
but it was also like it worked out because I was too young and because I was too dumb to
Yeah.
like know better. And I think the same, not necessarily the same thing with the podcast, but like I've wanted to have this podcast for probably years, but like it just didn't work out with our schedules and things like that.
Yeah.
But like now we still like, not that we're too young and too dumb, but like we still went for it, even though like we have no idea how this is going to turn out with the
Yeah.
YouTube videos and the podcast,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, and so it's not just always that you're too young, too dumb, but sometimes you just take the leap, and if it fails, so be it. You've grown. Like with every leap, with every step that you try something new, there's going to be growth
Hmm.
of some sort and learning. And so you take those wounds or things that turn out well, and you move forward. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's our soapbox for the day.
yeah.
All right, guys, that's the end of today's segment. Hopefully you enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.